the housing policy, sessional paper on the housing policy of 2015 of the Republic of Kenya, is very clear on the need of housing. And indeed, when you read deeper, the definition of housing has never been a universal definition. Even when you look at the UN Habitat resolutions, the definitions of housing has never been uniform and, cross-cutting. Each community, each family, each society has got its own definition of housing. So that's the first point. That's the first point. That's the first failure or shortcoming of this particular bill. It assumes that the definition of a house for somebody in Limuru is the same for definition of a house for somebody from Wajir. That is the first point. We seem to be, it makes many of us believe that this particular bill is not about housing. It's about politics. It's about short-term gains. It's about things that do not add any value to the people of Kenya in totality. Honorable Speaker, I want to disclose here, I was one of the first MPs to submit the site for affordable housing. There are indications that they are coming to do those affordable housing in my constituency. And when I told my people on the ground in Funyula constituency, they have mocked me for the last 3 weeks, non-stop, on how misguided, misdirected, and mispriority. So that's the first issue we need to address. Honorable Speaker, the committee has talked eloquently how they did public participation all over the country and where there was unanimity that this bill is good. They have talked about there are going to be amendments raised by the committee. And we want this to be the test case so that public participation should not just for the sake of public participation. Public participation should not be a farce. Public participation should not be window dressing. We would have imagined, I've not had the opportunity to read the report, but I would have imagined that in the report they have a matrix on what the people said in each particular center they went for public participation. How they have synthesized those comments and submissions, and how have they arrived at whatever amendments they wish to make to this particular bill so that we truly reflect the spirit of public participation. It's a terrible waste of public funds for us members of parliament to go all over the country. We listen to the people talk, and then we come using as some invincible force, invincible hand somewhere, we overturn the will and expectation of the people of Kenya. It's unconstitutional, it is immoral, it's unfair, and it's abuse of the office that has been conferred upon us. Honorable Speaker, they need to be very honest. There is a lot of concerns regarding this particular bill. The first one, and which has been the bone of contention, is the source of the funds to implement the housing, the affordable housing, social housing, affordable market housing, whatever definition you give it. The issue of the housing levy, it has been a bone of contention, and the courts of law have pronounced themselves in respect to that matter. Trying to cure the issues raised by the court of law by including clause 4, 2B, whereby we are talking now to look for other incomes. Honorable Speaker, we are just misleading the nation. We are just covering our heads in the sand. One, Honorable Speaker, the principle of taxation is that the cost of collecting and administering the tax must not be too high to an extent the tax collected, it becomes less useful, becomes not useful. Honorable Speaker, I do not know what mechanism will the KRA, the collector, use to collect the levy or any contribution from a mamboga, from Modaboda's rider, the sale of illicit brews, Any typical merchant who sells cereals, there are meadows in most of the communities where we come from. How will they? The cost of collecting that tax and administering that tax will simply, KRA will abandon that line of income and only concentrate on salaried people and those in formal employment. We are again going back to the discriminatory nature of the funds that have been that was the basis of the court case. We have not thought about it. As the minority leader has stated, what is the hurry? What's the hurry? We want housing. There's no doubt about it. Any Kenyan you ask, even those ones who live in Lavington, would want to upgrade to go to Mudaiga. Even those who live in South Sea would want to upgrade to go somewhere else. There's no doubt about it. But it's the modality of getting the housing. Honorable Speaker, and we'll move this amendment, and as usual, we will let the tyrant of numbers carry their day. We need, Honorable Speaker, there is an attempt to cure the problem, and that is clause 38 of the bill. Clause 38 of the bill. Which says an eligible person may make voluntary savings with an agent for purposes of raising a deposit towards the allocation of an affordable housing unit. That is where the solution lies. Housing is personal. It might never be a priority to everybody. Many of our children will prefer hovering around our houses, even as they approach 30, as they look to buy cars or to invest in the stock exchange. Many of us will get married. A man will move to a woman's house. You might do not need the house that you had until the day another competitor of the house comes to kick you out, which happens quite often. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to urge the majority side. Let's look at this thing from both a policy prescription point of view and realistic point of view, Honorable Speaker. Because at the end of the day, we are going to punish. Honorable Speaker, as I speak here, the reason I've stayed here all this long, and that's why I came here early, I have had several messages, especially from the teachers of this country. I have several messages from typical employed people who are low-income earners that are already suffering, Honorable Speaker. Many of them are now going into negative pay slips. They had thought the relief that came from the courts was going to help them solve their problems. Some have already committed, Honorable Speaker, continuing to impose the tax as it is at this level. It's punitive, it is unfair, and we want to tell the government, no country has ever developed by overtaxation. No country will ever progress by heavily taxing a common mwananchi. We can still do housing, Honorable Speaker, affordable housing, institutional housing. We look for seed capital, be it 70 billion, be it 100 billion, we can float a housing bond. We have gotten money through Eurobond. The sovereign rating of the country is still good. We can raise that kind of money. So that becomes a sinking fund. In any case, Honorable Speaker, housing demand oscillates from one period to another. There is no guarantee that all the houses that we are rushing to produce, to dump into the market, will be uptaken, will be absorbed at a go. That's a fallacy. There's no economic theory supports that kind of argument. Honorable Speaker, it is important that we look at this bill soberly, devoid of partisan politics, and present to the people of Kenya something that they will always look at the 13th Parliament and look at it with posterity. The other technical issues, Honorable Speaker, are immaterial. They are minor. They can be resolved. The elephant in the house is the definition of the house, and secondly, the way of raising funds for the housing, affordable housing schemes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Malava, Honorable Moses Injebi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also arise, Madam Speaker, to support this bill and thank the majority leader